Welcome to another round of my little guitar demo series. Today I want to do something special for you. I do not present guitar as usual, or many expect, but of course this is a special guitar here. Huh? What kind of guitar is that? This question is quickly answered. This is a unique guitar, a single one made for me, and believe it or not, this guitar has the name Mike Byrne Model. It's named after myself. And it's built and crafted by probably one of the best guitar luthiers here in Germany. His name is Matthias Schindehütte. A beautiful instrument. And I thought I'd take this guitar because it has a humbucker and 2 single coils. So it's the best for my purpose today here to show you some amplifier settings or some techniques, how to achieve a good guitar sound with a common tube amplifier. I have here a Marshall JCM 900 over a 4x12 Marshall cabinet. It's a JCM 900 lead, 1960 vintage model, and this is a very simple amplifier. Has only 1 channel, even it doesn't come with 2 channels. This is an amplifier which supports my technique. Some of you may know that I'm a friend of having only 1 channel amplifiers, so that I can control between clean and distorted sounds just with a volume and tone control. And in general, it's not so easy to tell people how to adjust the amplifier right, because of course it depends from many factors. First of all, the personal taste of the musician, but then of course it depends on the used instrument, on the used cables, on the used amplifier. So I want more concentrate on some basic principles which could be useful for you out there. The reason why I make these videos is not that I see myself in the computer screen, but that you out there have a benefit from that, from my experience. Yeah, and I think this is a good moment now that I can say hello to all my fans. It's sometimes overwhelming how many people click my videos and then leave comments, and then I can see they really get out something of my videos. This makes me a good day. This is the biggest joy for me when my presentations here are useful for you. And a big shout out to some of my power users like Big Edbo, hello Big Edbo, or Not But the Pope from Austria, ne? Grüß Gott nach Österreich, as we Germans say to our Austrian brothers and friends, or Dalton Mullins from America. It's good to know that you're out there, and I repeat myself, that you find my stuff entertaining and useful. Today, I, as I said in the beginning, cannot demonstrate to you with just 1 amplifier, 1 guitar, all possibilities, or give you all the default settings you will be happy with. I will concentrate on basic principles, like I said, and today I will concentrate on how do I set up my tube amplifier, in this case the Marshall JCM 900, for live gigging. I say live gigging because it's very different, the setup, the methods to achieve a good sound compared to low volume applications. So we talk about a small gig in a club, or even a bigger gig where you can turn up the amplifier a little bit. A common misconception of especially younger guitar players is that you adjust the sound like in the sleeping room or in the living room with that low volume, and you just turn up the master volume and it stays the same. Those guitar players will always experience that they go on stage, they pull up the amplifier, and their sound is not there anymore. It sounds so completely different that they feel even unsafe while playing, or uncomfortable on stage. And there are some common mistakes which can be made, and I want to show you how to avoid these mistakes with a few basic ideas. As you see, I have set the amplifier to 12 o'clock position every knob. That's what I do typically, and this is what I recommend to every guitar player playing somewhere on stage, even if he's familiar with his amplifier, because every room, every hall, especially, comes with a different acoustic behavior. And this acoustic behavior and the size of the stage determine how your amplifier will react and how you will get your tone. One of the biggest problems, of course, is the volume. So the guitar player needs to hear himself. Many then turn up the amplifier to 10. But if you turn up an amplifier to 10, the problem is with tube amplifiers like this typical Marshall here, that it will change the sound dramatically and will run into some sort of compression. You know, when the last stage tubes really come into working, the dynamics are different and the sound tends to be muddy. That's one thing. So you should avoid, if it's not your style element or your typical sound, to bring up the amplifier to the maximum volume if it's a tube amplifier. This is one thing. The second, so as a general rule, so I prefer always not to set the amplifier higher than 6, so a little bit over half. You know, so if you have 10, you can turn to 10, or some amplifiers offer the 12. A little bit above half up is the perfect volume, I would say, because then your amplifier still runs not into this compression factor I was talking about, and alters your playing then as a result. So this is one thing. Then when I see other bands doing the sound check in little clubs or so, I always hear that. You know what I mean? How do you get a good sound by playing this? This is not the perfect stuff to play for adjusting your amplifier for that room, because you want to hear the reaction of the room, and this you hear the best a little bit more by accentuated playing. I think this is the right word in English. So I would always go to the point where I bring up the guitar volume just half, as we hear when I go to 10. It's distorted. If I go half, it's a little bit crunchy, or if I go lower, it's very clean. But I just do this always when I'm on a stage. And just listen to the reaction of the room, what the room gives me back. And then I always check out the B flat note on the E string, because this is a typical resonance tone in many rooms. Or you know that effect when the drum set is responding to your guitar, so you would always then adjust the bass, right? This is the first you would do. You'll hear how the bass frequencies, the low frequencies of the guitar amplifier and the speakers, how that responds to the room. And then you adjust accordingly, so that you don't hear something coming back like, you know, the resonance. You don't want to have that resonance coming back to you. That's one thing. Of course, there are rooms, especially smaller rooms, like small clubs or bars or something like that, where the room tends to eat up low frequencies. So by using that technique, this kind of playing, just half volume, and your hand here on the bass, you can perfectly hear where, again, the room responds, and set the frequency accordingly. What does that mean, set the frequency accordingly? It does mean mainly two things: according to your taste, so that you feel good with that sound, and the second is that you don't create disturbing frequencies also for your other musicians. So accordingly means you hear for yourself when the sound is not positive. you know. So when there is something disturbing, something squeaking, something putting a strain on your ears. So how do I find these disturbing frequencies or disturbing sounds? You check around a little bit, and I always do that with volume only half up. Just one string or a second string, and then I go, for example, here, after I did that with the bass, first, that's my method. For other people it may be treble first. I recommend bass first, go in all in order. You have bass, middle, treble, typically on a guitar amplifier. Then you go with the middle knob control, with the middle frequency control here. And then probably would bring it up to the max. That's what I do. And then bring your guitar volume up a little bit and choose notes, lower notes, higher notes. Now I hear something which is disturbing my ear. It's a little bit too much mid-range, so I go two back, two steps back. That's fine for me. I do the same for the treble. Look here, that I'm half volume with my guitar. Turn it totally down to hear the range. As some of the clever ones of you noticed, the treble control does not affect the sound too much, especially when using a humbucker. What I'm doing right now, I would always, if I have a humbucker guitar, start with the bridge pickup. Of course, a single coil would react different, or would create totally different aspects here when turning on the tone control. And this is especially true, of course, for the high frequencies and for the high mid-range. So if I am a Stratocaster player, for example, I switch now to a single coil here. With my treble half, I already hear something putting a strain on my ear from the mid-range, so I put that mid-range a little bit back and go a little bit higher with the treble. Put it fully up. That's too much. My ear says "ay." And when it says "ay," it will also say for the audience "ay." You understand? So I heard so many guitar players in my life which tortured themselves, you know, their own ears. You see it in their faces, like and why don't they go to the tone control here, to the equalizer control, and do something? So it's the best to do it in the very first place. Like I said in the beginning, there is no general setting I can recommend. There are two principles which are very important to understand. First is, for a reason, I always checked it with the volume only half up on the guitar, because this is a high gain amplifier. So if I come up here with the gain, you hear it already running. There's distortion coming in, lots of distortion, and some people play ultra gain, and they will all experience one thing, and you have to notice it in advance. This is very important, because the higher you go with the gain on the guitar and on the preamp section of the amplifier, the higher you go with the gain, as a general rule, the less effect you will have from the equalizer control from the amplifier. I saw at times guitar players, you know, going from left to the right and wondering, is my amplifier broken or what? I don't hear a difference. Yeah, it's like that, because you don't hear a difference. I mean, I hear something when I turn on the treble control, but it's not much. And the same is true for here, for the treble, for the mid-range. This was the full range. This is not much. I go back with the guitar gain here, or I could do the same here on the gain section, but I want to have the gain in the control of my hand on the guitar. You hear more effect from the treble control, which would be amplified or multiplied if I go to a single coil, because single coils have more high frequencies natural. There was this squeaking frequency again. I even don't have to play chords or something like that. Just let the frequencies vibrate, and you can do no wrong. So keep that in mind. The higher you go with the gain, the less influence you will hear from the equalizer section from the amplifier. That's not the fault of the amplifier. That's it's a physical principle. And same is true, of course, with the bass. The only difference that the more speakers you have, or the bigger speakers you have, of course, at higher volumes, the low frequencies will really start to roll in the room. And the bigger the room is, the more bass you will feel. So from all knobs, the bass knob is a very, very important knob, because you really can destroy your sound with the bass. If you have too much bass, it becomes simply too muddy. Check this. Turn the bass up. It starts to break down the sound. That's not a good sound anymore. It's just simply trash. In general, of course, as an effect for special music styles, you have all the freedom you want. Remember, I want to give you basic principles, basic advice for a good, solid guitar sound. So be very careful in general with this kind of amplifier, or in general with tube amplifiers with a bass control. The bass control is a basic control, so keep that in mind. So I normally would never go higher than only half for the bass. So I said there are two important principles: the bass, and then it comes the presence knob. What is the presence knob doing? Many people do not understand the presence knob on a tube amplifier, because most tube amplifiers have that presence knob for a good reason. Because tubes react different compared to transistor amplifiers, or like modeling amplifiers, digital amplifiers. And the presence is giving you, in the range of approximately 2 kilohertz, a solid boost. And you can determine how much boost of that 2 kilohertz you have. It can also be 2.5. It's around 2 kilohertz. It varies from amplifier to amplifier. So if you are on stage and go just 10 meters away, you will realize with a long cable or with a sender that the high frequencies and the presence of your guitar is going away. And for that you have the presence knob. And with this presence knob you can boost your presence, in the best sense of the word. It creates presence. So I just turn the presence to 0 with the sound here. And I turn it to 10 now, the other extreme. That's a boost, isn't it? I mean, it's much more present. And it also helps, and this is very important, to make the notes you are playing to be more identifiable in a huge noise situation. The better you understand the concept and the importance of this presence knob, the better your sound will be, and people will hear more nuances in your sound. If the presence is at 0, and I see that very often on other guitar players' amplifiers, you get robbed of something. Also the understandability of your playing. It is also important to understand that the presence knob alone can't do wonders. You have to support it with another knob, and that is the bass, the low frequency knob. Like I said, those two knobs are very important for live gig situations or when you play loud. Because the settings on those two knobs, they alone determine how your guitar cuts through the sound, comes through the other instruments, and how much effort you have to invest in your playing to come through that sound wall. You know that situation when the drummer is going on the cymbals, so that's the higher frequency spectrum which interferes with your guitar, and the bass is there, boom, 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 and there's a very loud boom, boom in the room. Sometimes also not easy to locate, and you will experience with wrong settings that your guitar simply doesn't cut through. So as a bad example, I use the wrong setting. I go to presence 0, listen to that riff. I have pre-recorded because this is easier here with filming, excuse me for that. Listen to that now, how it sounds with presence 0. Yeah, doesn't sound too shabby, you might say. Yeah, but now listen to the difference. What I do is I set the presence to half and accordingly turn the bass totally, roll the bass totally off. So bass is 0, presence is half. Same riff, same setting, same guitar, nothing else changed. Yeah, I hope you heard the difference, and don't tell me it sounded worse. I mean, that was better, isn't it? Guitar is much more present, guitar is cutting through the mix, and you hear nuances you didn't hear before. It was more like muddy, 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 boo, 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 boo. But now you can hear every attack, isn't it? And the same is of course true for higher playing or lead style playing. So I do the same. I've prepared another playback for that kind of playing. So listen to that. So I go back here in my setting, which was 0 for the presence and the bass to mid position. Listen to that. Yeah, as you heard, I used the single coil here in the neck pickup. I wanted to go for the Stevie Ray Vaughan feel, you know, a little bit Jimi Hendrix, just how a Stratocaster single coil neck pickup should sound. But now listen to the same playing, same setting, but I put the presence up to half only and roll the bass totally off to 0. Listen to that. Was that a difference? That was a difference. And yeah, it simply sounded way better, isn't it? And this is what you have to keep in mind when you're in a club or in a smaller hall or wherever and set up your amplifier. That the presence and the bass are key elements. That distortion and everything is second. First is your tone control, that you really master it, the tone control, that you understand how it works. And what many people also not really realize is when you first hit a chord, when you now roll off the bass, the mid and the treble at the same time and the presence to 0, amplifier still on, but it's lower in volume. So you don't have only altered the sound, you also brought the volume down. So the tone control, the equalizer settings on a tube amplifier, on a typical tube amplifier, like this very common Marshall, also determines your maximum volume. Who would have thought that? And going from there, you of course can create interesting sounds. I just pull up the treble control now, max. Very straining on the ears, but now you have treble. You know, so if you run into a situation, this is what I wanted to go for, if you run into a situation where you say to yourself, I need more treble, I need more high frequency somewhere, and everything is already to 10, yeah, you do that. You bring down the bass, you bring down the middle, you bring down a little bit of the presence, and then you will experience that you can, you know, balance more towards a very high frequency sound. Same is true for the other frequency bands. For example, for the mid-range, here, bring the treble first to 0 again. Of course, very funny sound. But now I bring up only the middle here to 10. You see how it works. Yeah? And with the bass, of course, the same. But the louder it gets, you will then hear my words. Be careful with the bass knob. Be careful with it. It can ruin your sound. Many people are not aware of this. So I hope that up to this point, some of you had an eye or ear-opening moment. So these basic principles, they are important, and many people don't know them. One last thing I would like to include now here for this video session. This is the fact that, of course, you cannot transport a setting from one guitar to another, or from especially a humbucker guitar to a single coil guitar. This will never work, because it really reacts totally different. The whole package, and the amplifier and the speakers, especially at high volumes. You know, a Stratocaster has a lot of high frequencies by nature, and a lot of high mid-range, and if the amplifier is loud, this really can kill your ears. So you have to be careful what you do. And you will always strive for compromise. That's the best you can do. You will never have a perfect setting, apart from huge pedal boards, several amplifiers you have. You know, you will always see that popular guitar players will have more than one amplifier. Then is one only for the clean sounds, one is only for the crunch sound, one is only for the high distorted sound. And even they have another pair of amplifiers only for the delay signal, only for the chorus signal and everything. So I showed you here the basic setup with an amplifier which even hasn't 2 channels. It only has two master volumes. You see? How easy you can have a clean sound just by using the control here. Switch back to the distorted sound by turning on the volume control. But I have explained this in another video of mine called Gibson Tone and Volume Control to the max. So I don't want to bore you with that. I think I'm at the end of my little amplifier demo for today. I wish you all the best for today, tomorrow, and that it's not so hot like in Germany in the moment. So if you ever plan to have a vacation in Germany, never go in July or beginning of August. Copacabana, Brazil is a refrigerator against Germany at this time of the year. So have fun. Bye bye.